Thoughtless. Yeah, thoughtless. Anybody ever want to be known as thoughtless? Probably not many of us. Being thoughtless is defined this way. It's an adjective. First definition is marked by or showing a lack of due forethought or care. It's careless. A thoughtless mistake, a thoughtless blunder. Anybody ever do that? Anybody ever make a thoughtless mistake or blunder? Yeah, all of us. I told you this story before. When I was going to college, I worked as a security guard at an outlet mall store. One time I told the blind man that he couldn't have his dog in the store. He looked at me and said, "Sir, but I'm blind." The guy didn't have dark glasses. The dog didn't have one of those big harnesses. Not a lot of thought went into what I did there. Here's a second definition. Inconsiderate of the feelings of others. Wow. A thoughtless remark. Anybody ever made a thoughtless remark? Again, I think we've all been there. I once told someone this. I once told someone that my oldest son, Frank, was going to Votech to be a plumber. And I said very haphazardly, "Let's face it, anybody could be a plumber." And the person so kindly and lovingly said to me, "Yeah, my dad's a plumber." Ouch. Open mouth, insert foot. That's thoughtless. But I want to talk to you today about thoughtless discipleship. Yeah, thoughtless discipleship. Luke chapter 14 and verses 25 to 33 record some of Jesus' most confusing words. Let me share them with you now. From God's Word. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." Wow. "And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." Carry a cross? Then Jesus gives two illustrations. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, "This person began to build and wasn't able to finish." Jesus gives a second illustration. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose one who is coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Wow. Folks, Jesus warns against thoughtless discipleship. In today's text, he took on a topic that was extremely sacred to people. He takes on a believer's primary relationship to family. But in looking at this, we need to know there's a huge chasm between what we think of family today and the family of the first century. Today, many families are separated by huge distances. Many families are estranged. Many are shredded apart by divorce, infidelities, addictions, some even by incarcerations. But even in the 21st century in North America, we can still be shocked and appalled by the forcefulness with which Jesus dismisses conventional family ties. In verse 26 of the passage we read, Jesus says, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." Wow, of all the hard sayings of Jesus, and there's books after books about his hard sayings, this has to be the hardest of all. How could such a horrible sounding advice create a strong and a faithful disciple? Now, I need to tell you, please understand the word translated hate here does not mean hate in the way we think of it today. The word hate, misei, actually means to love less, or a really more proper definition is to hold in less esteem. That's what the word there means in hate, to hold in less esteem. And we ask, to hold in less esteem to what? And here it's Jesus. It's God. And please understand, Jesus is not talking here about our emotional feelings to our families. He's talking about how we behave. He's talking about how we act. And what's the motivation of our actions? It's important to hear these words in the register of their time. In the first century syntax, this hating or holding in less esteem was just like loving, but it wasn't an expression of emotion. It wasn't a feeling, rather, it indicated activities. It indicated behaviors, actions that would bring disgrace or dishonor upon the family name. Any action that brought dishonor on the family name would have been interpreted as hating the family, because you held the family in less esteem than the thing that you did. This kind of hateful behavior would reflect poorly on the power and prestige of the family patriarch, and that was important. It would be a tremendous sign of disrespect to undermine the patriarch's authority and place them in a bad role in the larger community. So here Jesus is asking would-be disciples to make a conscious choice to direct their actions first and foremost towards the kingdom and not to family. Remember, he taught us, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all the other stuff will get added as well. Remember also, Jesus is talking to a large crowd here. The word translated crowds in verse 25 is used in the plural form. This is done by the Apostle Luke to emphasize the considerable size of Jesus' entourage here. Jesus wasn't just speaking to the 12. He was speaking to many, many more. Many people who would follow. Many who were following him had already left everything to follow him. The crowd size suggests a good audience, and Jesus wants to impress upon the people their need to examine their resolve in following him. Not just tagging along to hear what he has to say, but to truly follow. He's talking about priorities. He was on his way to die on a cross. So facing this large crowd, Jesus extends this no-hold-barred invitation to anyone and everyone who will respond. And he gets right to where everyone will notice, where he gets everybody's attention. He gets right to family. Somebody says something about our family, those are fighting words, right? Somebody harms our family, man. I don't care what you do to me, but you do something to my family? Jesus asks about priorities. What is really your priority? Is it God or is it family? Folks, we need to understand that far more than today, back in Jesus' time on earth, the family was one's most fundamental source of identity. Your clan, your tribe, your people made you what you were and determined how you would live your life. Jesus himself came from a fiercely proud tribal heritage. Part of Jesus' claim to a messianic identity was based on his family tree and ties with his Davidic heritage. Jesus focuses on the most important. Face it, back in Bible times, you didn't get to pick where you lived. Your family did. Did you choose what you would do for a living? No, not really. Your family did. Did you choose whom you would marry? No, not really. Your family did. My friends, it was that very influence, that essential hold on the heart and the head, that Jesus called his disciples to reject, to hold in less esteem. And Jesus' harsh words shocked and shook the crowd of would-be disciples. For he called them to understand love and loyalty in a completely new way. That's what Tom talked about in his communion. To look at these earthly connections that we all feel make us who we are, like a father or a mother or a husband or a wife or a brother or a sister or a son or a daughter. We define ourselves as that. Yeah, I'm Martha's husband and I'm Brian's dad. But crazy as it seems, these are secondary identities. What we are, what we must be, first and foremost, are servants of the Most High God, disciples of the kingdom, faithful followers of the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. That is our primary identity. Look at the last part of verse 26 again. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, here's the part I want us to see. Yes, even their own life. Such a person cannot be my disciple. Yes, even their own life. Not content to limit a disciple's rejection to traditional loves and loyalties, not to limit it to just family, Jesus goes on to declare that a true disciple must hold in less esteem than even life itself. Wow. A follower must renounce themselves. Again, what Tom talked about in his communion. This self-surrender in faith in Jesus, it's indispensable as a condition of discipleship. Jesus asked for nothing less than the whole heart, not parts or pieces of it. He says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Denying self, though, that's a pretty tough one. It's probably the biggest thing that comes between us and following Jesus. Denying self. Because for many, the whole priority is self. I think we live in a selfish world. I just heard a baseball player on the news say he didn't care about the pandemic at all. If he doesn't get paid his whole salary, he's not going to play again. I don't care about the pandemic. I'm going to get mine, was his quote. What? People ask, what's in it for me? Ever heard that? What do I get? Yeah, denial of self is a tough thing. And please see this. This reference to life stands immediately before an invitation to death. A disciple's willingness to carry the cross and follow me, follow Jesus. Verse 27, and whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. See, disciples get to carry a cross. Again, this hating, this holding in less esteem isn't a directive to loathe your life or to be self-detesting. It rather indicates a willingness to embrace attitudes and actions that celebrate God on top of self, more than self, even in times of hardship. For Jesus, living isn't life's highest virtue. The cross is the ultimate symbol of hatred, of a disgraced life. It was a form of execution reserved for the especially repulsive criminals, the lowest of the low life. When the Roman Empire crucified a criminal or a captive, the victim was also often forced to carry his cross to the crucifixion site. And carrying the cross through the city, through the public, was supposed to be an admission. You're taking part in this, that the Roman government was correct in their sentence of death. And this is your admission, that you're carrying this cross, that Rome was right and you were wrong. When Jesus asks his followers to carry their crosses, he is asking them to publicly display before others loyalty to him, no matter that they're dragging along a cross. To let the world know where we stand, that his way is right, even while dragging along a cross. If this crowd around Jesus was to keep following him on his journey, by the way, that now leads to Calvary, Jesus insists on full disclosure. Pain and suffering and rejection, even death, looms large on the horizon. And Jesus knew the road his disciples must follow, and it was neither easy nor it was safe. He knew any distracted disciple whose loyalty was fractured between, like family and faith, between God and self, could never hope to bear the burden of a cross each of us must carry. He knew that just as he would be rejected and abused and killed by the world, his disciples would also face extreme hostility, real hatred. But if the disciples could hate, could hold in less esteem the earthly ties that bound them to human allegiances and loyalties, then they could focus on their faith and draw their strength from God's power and God's love and God's kingdom. You see, Jesus went against common sense, against conventional wisdom, by declaring that the family's strength couldn't be the source of the disciples' strength, no matter how important your family is. And when we really boil it down, our primary identity isn't in family, but it is in Jesus the Christ. Our family can't save us. Only Jesus can. When we stand before the judgment seat of Christ, and our family can't come and plead our case. The only thing that matters is our relationship with the Master. Only by holding in less esteem family, only by holding in less esteem one's own life, by picking up the cross and following, could disciples hope to save their lives and save their families and save this world. Folks, we are saved by our faith in Jesus the Christ. He's the comparison when we're asked to hold something in less esteem. You say, hold in less esteem to what? Hold it in less esteem to Jesus. Using two illustrations, Jesus then taught that discipleship must include planning and sacrifice. Verses 28 to 33. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone else who sees it will ridicule you, saying, "This person began to build and wasn't able to finish." Before a person starts to build, he must be sure he can pay the full cost of the project. Jesus is teaching that following him cannot be thoughtless. His disciples must consider the full cost of the project. Family, self, cross and all. Second illustration, or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able to, with 10,000 men, oppose one who is coming with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation, while the other is still a long way off, and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. If you're this king, what are you willing to sacrifice? 10,000 lives? There's a cost. You know, folks, discipleship is not a call for kind of mamby-pamby Christians. Types who blindly follow well-worn paths and say, "Wow, this led me to piety and inner peace." It's hard work. It's hard stuff. And Jesus clearly wants would-be disciples to count the cost. You see, discipleship is a call to strike out on new, even unexplored routes, as we are directed by God for advancing the kingdom. And the terrain is rough. It's tough. And family might not even understand. And there will be sacrifice. But when deciding what to hold in less esteem, never make it Jesus. Never make it Jesus. Amen.